Hello and welcome to week 5 of Inner Island program. You guys were so close. How are you? How are you feeling? It has been very high, chaotic, bouncy, shifty movement like energy this past week and still this week, and it's been a lot. So I hope you're doing well. I hope that these pockets of spaces that you've created for yourself have been helping you to come back to home, come back to your inner sanctuary, to your inner island. This week we have some fun stuff. Honestly, the week is already packed from the start. This week starts with Sunday, July the 5th, and then goes all the way until the 13th. So when I'm posting this, I think it will be posted on the 6th, depending on your time zone too. But it already started with like Mars and Pluto talking. So we have a lot of like intense energy, but movement with like a very intense drive behind it. So I hope you're doing well and you're handling it well. This week we're going to experience the last quarter moon phase and the balsamic moon phase, which I'm really excited for because this is truly where we started. So we are back again in our cycle. And I hope you really, really get to kind of like absorb as much as you can this cycle, because when the moon starts waning, right, we go more inward, right? It's like 13 days of going inward, and then like kind of gestation period, all that fun stuff, and then we go through our new moon, so we emerge, right? It's a very like, it's the ending of a cycle. So in this, we are less focused on doing in order to build, and we're mostly actually doing in order to retract. They consider the last quarter moon as a crisis point, but more of the first quarter moon is considered a crisis in action. So it's about like doing the action required in order for you to move towards the new, while in the last quarter moon is considered a crisis in consciousness, which is really more about removing things from your energetic field that you used to kind of like go through, right? Like consciously being aware to your habits, what you do, what you don't do, all that fun stuff, and then making a choice towards that. So it's still action based, but it's the action based here is really about letting go and removing. Also, this is where like you know for a fact that you're like, oh, I know I'm gonna let this thing go, right? And you're very like clear about this thing that you're letting go. However, a lot of the times, even though we say we want the change, our body doesn't respond immediately to that change with like embracing or embracement. Is that a word? And it is like needing that extra push, that like really reaching out into your resource tool kit or into your resource bag and using that tool that you need in order for you to really pass through this letting go moment. Anyways, and then we're going to go through the balsamic phase, which returns us back to where this new moon cycle started, which is the new moon in Gemini. And then we move on to the next, which is really exciting. I'm really excited for next week. So for this week, I wanted to talk about what has been happening, because I don't know about you, but so many shifts have been happening in my life, and no matter how much I can like prepare myself for changes and transition, it is always like I can be aware of it, I can be prepped as best as I can, but going through it is always something different. And this is really what I want to focus on this week, because there's so much movement with like Mars being in Gemini, right? And Uranus being in Gemini, there's a lot of unexpected energy. So Mars is like, I am going, but I don't know where I'm going. I could go here, I could go there, and then the drive with Mars is very intense, because there's that intense energy of the Uranus, the very unexpected energy, as well as Pluto, right? So we have Pluto's energy too, and they're within close degrees. So Pluto is very much intense. And what is Pluto doing? Pluto is shedding, is going back. Pluto is like, let's focus inward and remove these things from the root, these roles that we're doing, these ways in which we are performing to society how we are authentically, when in reality all we got to do is be in order to be, So this week, even though we've been doing a lot of shedding, I feel like the shedding is really going to come through like in your face, and specifically because we are also in Mercury retrograde. So there's actually a lot of mental energy, a lot of focus on our mental landscapes that is requiring our attention, because it is really showing us things that are ready to be pruned and let go of and all that fun stuff. For me, this has been showing a lot in terms of like, oh my God, in everything, honestly, in the way in which I choose to follow something and like getting out of like the routine. Because with Mars in Taurus, I felt like, no, I had to be disciplined in a way where consistency was really the main focus, in a way that is very traditional of like, okay, you got to show up, you got to do this thing, you got to follow it through, and you just got to keep working on this thing that you decided you're going to do, right? With Mars in Gemini is feeling like, oh, like this is great, and then it's all fun and games, and oh my God, people, community, wow, this is so much fun. And then it's like, oh, other people, other community, whoa, am I like really fitting in? And then you're just like, it feels like floating, right, from one place to another, but it also feels like it's a lot of like just difference, like it's different in so many ways and so many flavors. So there's a lot to take in as well, but because the energy is moving so fast, it's easy to fall into the trap of like not taking in and not reflecting on what's happening, specifically since we have Mercury in Cancer retrograde, which means really like what we're going through right now is a repeat of something, and it's really what is showing us is the emotional, or like, yeah, the emotional narrative that is attached to our feelings, right? Because it's the feelings is like the story behind the emotion, right? So for the way how it's been showing up for me is that I have noticed that I have been going through very intense like just an experience that kind of like invokes very intense emotional response from me. And after I go through like the emotional, like the feeling of what needs to be felt, right, it just dissipates. And then after that, it just you kind of let go of it, and I'm so aware of like where that came from. And it's not a surprise that I find out that that's where it came from. I think what is really required is just to feel it so that you can pass through it. Because really, with this Mercury in Cancer, the whole point of it is that you're not gonna get to the clarity if you don't sit in the feeling and feel it all without like blaming and shaming yourself for like how you are playing out the story and how it is going through your body. So last week I had a very unexpected dental work that needed to happen. It was I truly such an intensely terrible and painful experience, and I had to take some time off, and I was just going through it, right? And for me, the way I interpret a lot of like, the thing is that the way spirits work with me and like my life is that it's so, as spiritual as it is so literal, even in the like spiritual meaning and experience of it all. So I broke a tooth, literally snapped in half. It was like during the exactitude of my Saturn in Aries, my Saturn return, like exactitude. I have a Saturn square my Venus and Mars. And what this all means is just like there's like a tension energy, right? Like a pressure energy. And here I want you to think about it in terms of like Saturn and Aries, there's the ram, and then you have my Venus and Mars in Capricorn, that is the goat, the mountain goat, right? And what happened is that they came and collided, and my tooth fucking broke in half. It snapped into half, and that's literally how the energy manifested, right? Physically. So what I needed to do, what I recognized that I needed, was that I needed to stop, because I was going in a pace that was not sustainable, right? And Aries is really like the way how I've been experiencing Saturn in Aries. It's like it's a not yet, right? I just have this hand that is holding me and saying not yet, step back. So whenever I try to like hit it, step back, not yet. And then suddenly it's like go. And I'm like, what is this? So I feel like I've been in the practice of that not yet, like ready, set, go, which is very Mars, very movement based, very like, like just, anyways, I love it. I'm glad to have been experiencing this. But all of this to say is that the reason why I had to like stop and sit and all of those things, because I was going through that, right? But what I went through with that experience of like having my dental work done, I came back, and the feelings that came up, right, sitting with the pain, because the thing is that with injury and pain, especially after the antiseptics go and stuff like that pain lasts, right? So the way I am experiencing my world is from the inside out, like very much in it. Like I am in my body, I cannot escape it, right? There was a time where I could have, but that time is long gone. I can no longer just dissociate. Like I can use substances and stuff like that, but that's not how I choose to do it. I mean, I did take painkillers, but all that to say is that I had to sit in it, and I realized that a lot of what was coming up and the crying and the pain was attached to stories that were like, yeah, like, how do I say this? Like, they weren't really pertaining to anything that was happening in like immediately. It was all really like old, like built up stuff that just kind of like accumulated to this like peak energy and pressure, and then it snapped, right? And then it had to be removed. And that's what I felt, and that's why I'm saying like it was so literal. Where I came back, I just had to kind of like go through this intense period of like pain, feeling my pain, crying it out, right? Like the tears really like just out, like letting it out, and then being in the story of whatever I was crying about, and then in the end, I'm done. The story is just gone. It doesn't have that heightenedness, that peak, that sharpness to it. Now it's just, it exists and slowly it starts dissipating. And that was a teaching moment for me, and then it just reminded me like this entryway into Mercury and Cancer, that there's a lot of that happening, and a lot of it has to do with childhood, with our parental figures, just because Cancer is the roots. It's the roots, baby. It's your ancestry. It is the immediate people that you come from, and the people they came before them and after, and all of that, you know? So we are not, it's not a time and place to escape your narrative. It's not a time and place to escape your roots, your context. And it is really what is required of you to face whatever is happening right now. And now I want to take it to like the bigger picture, the bigger lens of what is happening in the world, what is happening in your country, what the changes and all of these things, because this is still a reflection of what is happening internally is also reflected outside, right? As within, so without. So we can see that there's a lot of narrative in terms of like culture, in terms of like home, in terms of nationality, a lot of patriotism. We just had the 4th of July too. So all of this is showing up in a time and place where we are focused on roots, ancestry, how we came to be, all of that fun stuff. And it's also making us kind of like reflect on what are we still holding on from those generations, from those people that we come from that ancestry? What are the roots that are ready to just be cut off and pulled out? And what are the roots that needs to be nurtured? And what are we seeding here that really wants to be nurtured? And it's really perfect setup for what is coming next, which is next week is the new moon in Cancer. So we have a lot of energy supporting us towards this new, right? Like that's how it always flows. It's always kind of like pruning, and we're pulling out and we're weeding and whatnot, and then suddenly we're seeding, and suddenly we're pouring, and then we're harvesting and nourishing and all that fun stuff. So I'm really excited for next week. But for this week, I want us also to focus on a really, really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful supportive energy, which is Venus moving into Virgo. Virgo is associated with the mind-body connection. It is literally about your day-to-day habitual work that kind of like nourishes the body, but in a way that is very grounded and also still extremely spiritual, right? Because the Virgo doesn't like seek the outside. It literally explores the outside from within. It's like, okay, the light that I have is within. It's the hermit energy, right? The hermit is indoors. They're like, oh, I can listen to my body and what my body says to me and stuff like that, and that's how I navigate my life. Also, it is very analytical. So with Mercury, for example, Mercury, it rules both Virgo and Gemini. And then, sorry, I'm just nerding out at this point. So with Gemini, it is very much about, it's mutable, it's changing. I mean, in Virgo too, however, it is also about, it's like floaty, right? But with Virgo, it is very internal. Like with Gemini, it's outside. It's like seeking information. It is like absorbing this and that. And then with Virgo is like inside, and Virgo is like, oh, what is this telling me? And then the kind of like the analytical process can actually be very helpful in terms of determining how your body speaks to you, right? So that is really beautiful, because guess what? This whole setup of this program, right, kind of leads us back to here, which is really great. And I think I love, 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 love that we're now closing that cycle and starting it right here at this point, because we go back inwardly too, and then we have this energy that supports us to go back even further in. And we've laid a foundation of like, okay, I come and check in with my senses, I come and check in with my body, and then now I can even, I have a clear work that I get to look back to and reflect to see myself within the cycles of how I choose to show up and how I've been showing up and what do I do now. So with Venus going into Virgo, we're really more focusing on the here and now within our body, right? I think this is a really great time to kind of like not shut out the world, like in the sense of like you put your head in the sand, but shut off the world in terms of like, what if you choose to not seek quote unquote advice or like other people's opinions and things? What if you just choose for this month or the 4 weeks of the transit or whatever to just truly follow what you want to do? Where would that lead you, right? Because we still have this Mercury in Cancer reflecting back, right? It's the roots. But it's like, okay, like, what is this thing that is leading you? What is the inner, what are these inner essences that are leading you, and where are they leading you? Because the energy is moving us towards that. But what are we moving towards? Are you moving towards the thing that you've planted? Are you moving towards the thing that you want? Or are we moving towards destruction and corruption and more wars and more, like these are all existing at the same time. And these all, like all of this energy exposes to us who is really more quote unquote in control. So I want you to kind of like maybe reel back on some things, and maybe reel back on the social media, reel back on the scrolling, and focus more on what you want to do and how to feed yourself in the day-to-day aspect, right? Virgo is really about the details. Virgo is not big picture at all, right? But the issue with Virgo is that you can get stuck looking at the trees, forgetting that you're in the forest, right? That's the thing with Virgo. Virgo is so precise in the way it looks. It is very detailed. It is very hyper-focused, right? It is Mercury. It's our mind. It's focus. But where are we putting our focus and attention to? So that's really good to kind of like focus on this week, specifically with what's happening in the world. And I want to say with the news and all of that, like, where's our algorithm? Where's the news driving our attention? For example, just a silly little example about like Taylor Swift's wedding, for example. It's so like, it's overtaking the news, even though I have no idea what she does or what she's doing in her life. Like, I don't follow her at all, but it's so interesting that is what is showing up and people have commented and stuff. Obviously, she's like a billionaire also, right? She has an immense following, right? And a very specific demographic of people who follow her too. So that's also something to keep in mind, right? But also it's like how easy it is to be driven in towards that kind of like focus, and then you just have people focusing on that for a while, and then what are we missing on the bigger picture, right? And also at the same time, if we come back to ourselves, what do we need immediately instead of that? Like, if I think about my body and what I need, I'm not thinking about her wedding or what is happening in MSG, right? So things like that, right? And last but not least, there is so much beautiful energy in terms of like connecting with people. With Jupiter moving into Leo, right? Leo, we talked about it. I've been talking about it. I'll keep talking about it, right? There's a lot of like emphasis on like we have a lot of light being shed on new people, on like things that feed us, right? So what are you being pulled towards? What is happening? Where in your life are you feeling like there's a spotlight that's starting to like be flicked on you? Like these are things to keep it intact. But the reason why also I'm focusing on it is because we're also moving towards the axis, the eclipse axis, where it's gonna change towards the Leo and Aquarius axis, which is gonna be real fun, real exciting. but we're still at the very beginning. So there's a lot of connection that is available to us with the sun being in Cancer, right? We want to connect. We want to feel like, oh, we're home. We want to feel like, oh, comfort, people, love, and like the pouring of love and receiving that love back. I feel like it's so beautiful and you have to experience that. However, are we doing it out of our survival skills, or are we doing it out of our own hearts and pouring our hearts out without the expectation of anything, but also with the reciprocity of it? So you're not just pouring out, you're also receiving it back. So you're pouring as you're being nourished. So yeah, and I also feel like this week, or not just this week, but I've been feeling this energy of like expressing and communicating something. Like I feel like our voices are being highlighted with a lot of this mercurial energy, even though Mercury is in retrograde, so be careful what you're talking about, what you're reflecting about, because most likely it's gonna shed something on you rather than someone else, right? Because you gotta also remember the crab and how the crab functions and all that fun stuff, right? And also, we are really being pushed towards expressing our truth, right? And where do we choose to root ourselves in that? How do we ground ourselves in that, right? With the Venus in Virgo, how we choose to root ourselves with the Mercury in Cancer. And also, in the end, it's like, what is you? What do you choose to communicate that is you? How do you choose to voice who you are, and not show up in the roles and the performance of who you think you're supposed to be or who you were taught to be? So yeah, there's a lot of movement still, and I would love to give you the promise of like a quiet time, but we are not in quiet times. Let's be real. And things are picking up, and they keep picking up. And it's just kind of like, oh, like, when are we going to hit the climax? It just keeps like we're going up and up and up and up and up, which is very interesting because it just started. And I don't want to look too far in the future astrologically, so I'll just keep it here to be like, the whole point is not about what is happening outside of us. It is also about how do we just come back to ourselves when we are being throttled out, right? We are being pushed in all parts of this earth, right? We're being pushed in our limits in so many ways. And not to say that that is, and I mean, it feels like an aggressive energy, but also it is what is required of the times that we're in, right? We need new, and the new doesn't happen in like just comfort and choice and not sorry let's it doesn't only happen in comfort. It happens in the discomfort of breaking new into this new world, right? So we are stepping into this new world. So how do you choose to create your world? I hope you are, I mean, if you're in this collective, obviously you're creating your foundation, coming within, pouring that love and care and nourishment within, right? And just to know that it is not that you're not going to be throttled and you're not going to be zen like 24/7. That's not reality. I will never accept that as being reality. I feel like what happens is that how do you learn how to go through ups and downs, right? Not just being in the middle all the time. No, you feel it up and you feel it down and you come back to the middle when you have to, because that's just the cycle in which you go through, right? And to be gentle with yourself as you go through these cycles, and just knowing how to come back to yourself. How do you feel the heighten of something while still being yourself? How do you feel the lows of something while still being yourself? That's really what I'm here to empower you to have, and to remind you of the tools that you got within you. So I love you. I hope this week treats you well. I hope you treat yourself well, and keep paying attention, okay, to the stories and to the things that are happening this week, specifically having this Mercury retrograde. It's because it's a repetition of something. So I just want you to notice what is really repeating right now. That is all. So I love you. Take care. And until next week.